Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful and most secretive dynasties in the entire world. This is a family that's been shaping history and entire industries from the shadows for more than 150 years.
So let's start with a little puzzle. How is it possible for a single family to control an empire worth €250 billion? I mean, influencing everything from global banking to life-saving medicines, and yet you've probably never even heard their name. How does that even work?
Well, the secret, if you can call it that, is all wrapped up in their family motto: to be, not to seem. For 6 generations, the Wallenbergs of Sweden have absolutely perfected the art of making invisibility their greatest superpower.
So who are these guys? Well, the Wallenbergs are, without question, Sweden's most powerful dynasty. Their influence is woven through companies you definitely know: AstraZeneca, Ericsson, Atlas Copco, but they have masterfully managed to stay out of the spotlight, off the rich lists, and away from all the public attention that usually comes with that kind of power. To really get it, we've got to go back to the mid-1800s. See, back then, Sweden was a country with big ideas, but it was really poor. It just didn't have the cash to kickstart its own industrial revolution. It needed a spark.
And believe it or not, that spark came from a pretty unlikely place: a young naval officer named Andrei Oscar Wallenberg. He comes back from a trip to the US with this wild idea he got from reading a book, a simple idea that would become the foundation of a massive financial empire.
And wow, did they build this thing fast. In just a little over 60 years, the family put together this brilliant 3-part machine: a bank to create the wealth, an investment company to grow it, and then a foundation to protect it, basically forever. Now this foundation thing, that was an absolute stroke of genius by Knut and Alice Wallenberg. By putting their fortune inside of it, they made sure the empire would never get split up by family fights or eaten away by taxes. It became this permanent, concentrated engine of power, funding both their businesses and a huge amount of Sweden's science and research. But just as their power was hitting its stride, the world plunged into darkness. World War II would become the Wallenbergs' biggest test, morally, strategically, and it forced them down a path filled with some really dangerous and controversial choices.
This is where things get really complicated. You had 2 brothers from the 3rd generation, Jacob and Marcus Jr., playing this incredibly high-stakes double game. Sweden was officially neutral, right? Well, Jacob became the main guy negotiating trade with Nazi Germany, while his brother Marcus was busy keeping crucial ties with the Allies. They were working both sides.
But it gets even deeper than just trade deals. Their family bank, SEB, was accused of helping the Nazis launder assets that were stolen from occupied countries. But at the exact same time, Jacob was secretly a go-between for the German resistance, which was plotting to kill Hitler. It's just this incredible tangled web of business, complicity, and secret heroism that ultimately got them blacklisted by the US after the war.
So you have all this murky, morally gray stuff happening, and then, out of that same family, you get a story of pure, undeniable heroism. But this same era would also bring a profound tragedy that would shake the entire dynasty right to its very core. Meet Raoul Wallenberg. He was Jacob's nephew. In 1944, he was sent on what seemed like a totally impossible mission to Budapest. His job? To try and save the last major Jewish community in Europe from being wiped out by the Nazis.
And what this man did, it's just breathtaking. Raoul saved an estimated 100,000 people. He created fake Swedish passports, he physically pulled people off of trains that were headed to death camps, and in the final chaotic days, he personally stepped in to stop the massacre of the entire Budapest ghetto.
But the story of this incredible hero, it just ends in the most tragic way possible. When the Soviets rolled into Budapest, Raoul was arrested, accused of being a spy. He just disappeared into the Soviet prison system. And the most shocking part? His own family, this incredibly powerful dynasty, and his home country were basically silent, choosing business deals with the Soviets over pushing for his freedom.
So after the war, the family machine had to keep going, right? And all of that weight, all of that expectation landed on one person, Marcus Jr.'s son, Mark. He was groomed from the day he was born for one single purpose: to lead the empire. The pressure on him must have been just relentless.
And in 1971, that unimaginable pressure became too much to bear. Mark Wallenberg, the hand-picked heir to the entire Wallenberg fortune and legacy, took his own life. It was a devastating tragedy that left a massive hole right in the heart of the dynasty and made people wonder if it could even survive.
So now, the family is in a full-blown crisis. The chosen heir is gone. The future looks completely uncertain, and that's when an underdog, someone nobody expected, steps into the ring to not only save the dynasty, but guide it into the modern age, making that art of invisible power even more perfect.
And that leader was Peter Wallenberg, Mark's younger brother. He was never supposed to be the one in charge. He'd kind of built his own career. But when tragedy struck and his father later passed away, he stepped up. Facing huge doubts from everyone, Peter proved them all wrong, completely transforming the family's companies and cementing their power on the world stage.
And the result of his leadership? It's just staggering. Today, the fifth generation of Wallenbergs oversees an empire with foundation assets over 30 billion euros and public company stakes worth €250 billion. I mean, to give you some perspective, their financial clout is right up there with names you hear every day, like Elon Musk.
So, how do they do it? How do they stay so powerful, yet so invisible? Well, it's a masterclass, really. The foundations keep the wealth locked away, far from tax collectors and rich lists. That family motto keeps them focused on the work, not on fame or fancy lifestyles. And a strict policy of media silence means their personal lives stay just that, personal.
You know, this whole setup is so unique that one publication famously called them the best-paid charity workers in the world. They are so deeply woven into Sweden's economy and its scientific research that they're almost untouchable. As one expert put it, trying to go after the Wallenbergs is like trying to go after Sweden itself.
So where does that leave us? It's this incredible story of financial genius, for sure, but it's also a story shadowed by wartime compromise, deep moral contradictions, and heartbreaking personal tragedy. So the real question is, what is the true legacy of a dynasty that built an empire by mastering the art of not being seen?